Welcome to the Mart channel. Welcome back, guys. It's good to see you here today, and thanks for everybody who likes, shares, and subscribes to my channel. Now, what I'm going to propose here today strangely makes a lot of sense, and I've only the final experiment to thank, the failed final experiment to thank for looking at this. This is going to make a lot of sense. Were the moon landings only partly faked in a Hollywood basement and the rest on Antarctica? Now, bear with me because this may be a surprise to you. I can't help but notice looking at this image of the surface of the moon, color footage apparently photographed from NASA. And this is some sort of battery pack, but you can see the indentations and the footprints on the moon look a lot like snow. In fact, I can't even believe how much it resembles snow. So I got to thinking, going through the images, thinking, well, if there was a bit of, discoloration going on, or maybe they're making it look like this grey powdery substance. So we're going to have a look and see if it's in fact snow on this, in these pictures from NASA, or grey substance, grey powdery substance, which they supposedly reported. But also, this is a picture of Antarctica. This is in the McMurdo Dry Valley area. There are loads of valleys that are dry deserts free from ice, and they have this grey, dusty, rocky appearance in Antarctica. Let's get back to these NASA images. Oh, to deceive. So there was, at the time there was, the history was unfolding. They had a lot on the table to, make these moon landings happen. There's in the conspiracy field, if you want to call it, that people will say that these are Stanley Kubrick backdrops, and all of this is done in some kind of exceptionally large sound studio. It would have to be really large for the moon rover to rip around it. Well, I think it was partly done in a studio, and I think the rest was done in Antarctica. So what I did is I gave them the benefit of the doubt, and I tried to exclude the reasons why it wasn't in Antarctica. Now, if you can look here at this grey, dusty substance. Now, just supposing the NASA actually had some kind of technology that turned the hue of white into grey, then this would just look like dusty snow. Coincidentally, the same sort of dusty snow that Whitsit was showing us recently in that whole load of fuckery, which has got all my alarm bells ringing, that was just carried out in Antarctica. So, reasons that it may not be on Antarctica. Okay. Well, I think that it is recorded at night. And I think that they have one or two, at least, large floodlights illuminating a large area of what is a nighttime Antarctica. And this is probably the reason why you can never see any stars. Plus, I think the Hasselblad cameras couldn't pick up that sort of definition, which is what they're apparently using. But I cannot but notice, this floor, this grey substance, it's just not what, first time I ever heard it was like, what, grey dust? But it really does look like snow. If you try to imagine this same floor, but turn it into that it's all white, and then it looks exactly like snow. And frost, how frost would behave. You see all of this dust kicking up? Well, dry powdery stuff that they are talking about in Antarctica just recently, about powdery snow, schnee. But the background here is because I think that they are illuminating it with very large on cranes or possibly high towers that they took with them. Now, the narrative is it took them 3 days to get to the moon. Well, I don't think that's happening. I think it's a ridiculous notion, through apparently Van Allen belts. Not that I think any of that is actually happening, but I do think that it was definitely the case that they faked it. But, the case of the moon rover ripping round this studio must have been an exceptionally large studio, unless part of it was done in Antarctica. And part of it was done finished off, touched up, maybe the hues changed for the finished product. None of these images are actually live. If you remember Google Earth years ago, I remember that they had Google Mars years and years before they had Google Moon. So why? They were at the moon, apparently. They should have had... It took them all of that time to sort through these images, and alter them somehow. But what leads me to think that it's a remarkably big floodlight is these massively deep shadows that you get, which leads me to think that these are all taken at night time. And they got these spacesuits on because it's bloody freezing. So I remember when the final experiment was happening on Union Glacier, there was footprint gate, wasn't there? Where they were saying that there wasn't any footprint because the ice was too hard for any footprints to be tracked. But that wasn't the case because it had been scraped over by some kind of special machinery that they have going there in Antarctica. But in the marathon, apparently, rich entitled people like to go running around Antarctica because they have nothing else to do with their lives. And they leave footprints I've seen on other videos, footprints that look remarkably like these footprints. Now, what I remember Jerin once saying on his video is the mountain in the background is 5 miles away, but it looks so close. And I remember thinking right then when he said that, what, like the Stanley Kubrick mountains in the background, and there's like a line here, which is possibly all of this is just a backdrop. And then I got to think about, well, maybe the same people doing the same, or these are Hasselback crosses. These are Hasselback cameras, which are made of plastic, by the way. And if there was these unbelievable temperatures, I thought that would survive the surface of said moon. So, the moon rover, for example, which is essentially a Jeep, which they said was the most expensive vehicle ever. They took it up under the limb, apparently, all folded up, unfolded it, and then ripped around the moon like Jimi Hendrix on a beach. But all of this will keep you really warm and toasty. There's these harsh shadows, from this, what they want you to think is the sun, which I think is multiple, in many cases, multiple light sources, which is another thing, again, that was pulled out on the gates of Antarctica gatekeepers. This tire on the rover, okay, is already looking like it's really, really messed up and worn for some reason. I don't know what's going on there. So yeah, they never tested any of these suits, and they never tested this vehicle in a vacuum-free environment in any way. But you can see this dust stuff kicks up on the tires, but it didn't kick up apparently on the limb's feet when it landed. So they went off, they played some golf, they sung songs like On the Merry, Merry Month of May, when you're in Nasserangay. So here they are doing a bit of geology, same sort of thing as they're doing in the modern day with NASA and Elon and that Mars ridiculousness. So yeah, so they rip around. There's plenty of footage you can see of them ripping around this very, very large area. Maybe, I don't know, 500 meters across, something like that. But again, it is miraculous how much these look like snow prints. Absolutely unbelievable how much they look like snow prints. And the mountains in the background, even if they're not a Sidney Kubrick mountain backdrop, just a backdrop affair, then I really do think that they could be covered in snow. What do you think? And they like you to think, for taking photographs of stuff like that, there might be some sort of masonry happening on the moon. Oh, there's definitely masonry happening on the moon. Freemasonry in Antarctica. But it leads me to think about what Richard C. Hoagland said. Richard C. Hoagland back in the day was talking about domes on the moon because he was Walter Cronkite's science advisor during the moon landing. So he had an inside knowledge of it all. And he said, oh, yeah, domes on the moon, which is what? Antarctica. Now, that makes a lot of sense to me. I think Richard C. Hoagland might have been trying to nod us a wink, you know, guys. So there's two sides to this coin. We're either looking at altered, snowy, dusty, snowy image. So what about, right, so the sky could be covered. What about the weather? So they went there and they had to send images back, etc. So they had to ensure the weather. Well, that's okay, because apparently in the valleys near McMurdo Sound, these green and dry and sometimes deserty, some of the driest deserts on Earth places don't have any weather. They have, and some of the valleys are blocked waywardly from the wayward winds, so to speak. So they say stay pretty still and don't have any weather. So they ensured that. But it looked like when they were on the in Antarctica that day, they did have a bit of a gust blow up. Because as you can see, so there have been narratives out there before that this is desert sand and all of this was done in either Nevada or Arizona or New Mexico. And there are places that look like these. But, you know, one of the big things with the moon landings is the multiple light sources, you know, one there, showing like sort of two light sources. But in this, you know, aluminium, which is microns thin, which apparently cut the vacuum out, landing pad, there's no dust settled in it, yet it come down with a bit of a thump. Because it didn't come down with a thump, they set it all up. When they got out there, took them 3 days. You know, nobody really asked the question of who was there actually on the moon waiting for Neil Armstrong to one giant leap for humanity and don't you drink that yellow snow. But there was someone there all the time, snap, 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 with their little Polaroid camera. So I don't know if that's Buzz O'Neill. I think it's Neil. Iconic image, man on the moon. So what other reasons are they not in Antarctica? Earthrise. Well, Earthrise is only on videos, not really on any of these photographs. And as I said, it took them a long while to actually reach the public. And the Earthrise, I think, is just inserted. I've seen actually somebody going through a computer analysis and showing you that it's cut and paste. But not only that, because of the size of Earth in, you know, comparison to the moon, most of the horizon should have been filled up with a big whammy Earth all there. So yeah, there's always that compromise of color, the grays and this gray here with the Sydney Kubrick drop. But again, just like this, you know, this gray powdery stuff. These look like snow prints to me, guys. This dog, he's been laying down some yellow snow. That's another reason you shouldn't drink it. But he's looking for a bone because he knows the scar. And use that cut and paste Earthrise that they so show us, which makes zero sense to man or dog. Woof. Aww. I can't really substantiate whether this is true, but this is flying around in the media, and they want you to really know this stuff, that Neil Armstrong's boots do not have any comparison to the famous footprint, which apparently is still on the moon today, because apparently they don't go, which looks remarkably like if you step in that rock-hard, icy snow stuff, and then it just sticks, and then it just comes out in this impression. I've done this 1,000 times in snow. It's really weird. So there's a dog print, there's a bird print, there's a horse print, and there's a fibber or a liar. Okay. So imagine, so if they're in the snow, they could be in these grey areas of Antarctica, out of human waste, 3 days to get there. This is absolutely perfect. I wouldn't even be surprised if it was somewhere in the vicinity of Union Glacier. You got to ask yourself, what I'm going to show you in a minute, why the final experiment didn't go to where I'm showing you in a minute. It makes zero fucking sense. Unless, well, it's them, isn't it? So there he goes, planting the flag like a spanner. And he's walking like he's just pooed himself because he's got man nappies on and he's just actually taken a dump for the first time in his life since he was a baby. And it's starting to fill up the smell. But, you know. So isn't it to be an astronaut in a man nappy suit? So yeah, why is he walking like that if he's on the snow? Is that he's walking real time. They've just sped it up a little. Time lapsed it. And there's wind as well. And the deep, deep shadows, because I think it's at night, and I think they're just illuminating it's like a local sun, if you like, a local light source. So this is another thing the raises alarm calls. To see these spacesuits, yeah, one little rip in them and you will die instantly. Yet you see these stupid astronauts roaming around the surface of apparently the moon. Just put that into perspective, the rock in the sky, whatever it is. And then you could fall over. Oh, I've just torn my suit on a sharp stone. Everybody in the mission's dead because I'm essential to everybody's survival. But isn't that exactly what it looks like on the piste? Let's just imagine for a second that he's got skis on and he's skiing down the piste. Yeah, he's not pissed. He's on the piste. What do you think, guys? It looks remarkably like snow, doesn't it? Give me that, guys. Yes, it does, doesn't it? And he's in like a warm suit because he's in the winter because it's dark. So I was looking at some of the footage of Admiral Byrd. I'm going to talk about him on my next post. He went down there in Operation High Jump. Curious name, High Jump. Why? Look, this is death. He would have literally had trauma after this. What's the matter? We need to talk to you. It's ever since I fell in that spacesuit and you ripped it and died of vacuum. Like I had visions of Arnold Schwarzenegger's eyeballs popping out like on the surface of Mars. So, oh yeah, I've seen that film. Well, that's what happens. So I think it's sped up, just a quarter speed, not too much. And the bouncy effect is because they are doing that stupid jumpy up and down thing. And if they do anything higher, well, then they've got that same crane as they've got a light source on, lifting them up with a bloody wire. Look at this behavior. It's absolutely ridiculous. He's in another world. Yeah, whatever. So they did things like banging a hammer that we should, even though they're supposed to be zero sound in a vacuum. But you can hear the hammer because the microphone picked it up, wherever the microphone was. So here he is in his keep warm suit. And again, that stuff's behaving like dusty snow that we've seen. Thanks, Witsit, for showing us that dusty snow. I think you gave the game away. What do you think? Yep. So do I. There he is on the piste, kicking up all that lovely dusty snow. In the merry, merry month of May, and all nice turned again. Okay. So here they are. This is the best image you got. You had a very, very clear image shown to the world when Buzz and Neil landed on the moon. It was literally a camera of a television screen, and then everyone's seen it third party, but probably fourth party. So they had time in case anything went down to alter it, because obviously you can't go live from the moon because, all of that is absolutely made up. Craziness that they did it. There you go. Death, death, death. This man's just going to die. He rips his suit. He's just going to die. But again, this stuff's just behaving like snow. And what? The moon's surface is a grey powder. Well, so you get cosmic winds blowing that shit away. So here he goes, doing a bit of sounding. Check if there's any bases under the moon. Any UFOs hiding down there. Any Nazi UFOs. Everyone knows Hitler's inside the moon with Nazi. We've all seen the film. We all know the scar. So here is a panoramic in color. And there's just that one light source there, which I would say is a studio light, a large floodlight, but they got more than one light source. I would say the two are close together. They move them. The studio set. Everything you see there is illuminated. Everything outside of it is the expanse of Antarctica, which is all where the movie-making equipment and everything else is set up. Makes perfect sense to me. keep nice and warm in them spacesuits. That's what they do. They actually do keep them warm. They're brilliant. And because it's like minus 27, because it's middle of winter, because that's when they do it. So you might be fascinated to know, and there is images out there on a Admiral Byrd video. Absolutely brilliant. I got copyrighted for showing you it though, so I can't show that again. But it shows you in an aeroplane flying over a large expanse of Antarctica, which is green valleys. And there's also volcanicity, which means that there is hot spars and hot water, which gives birth to grasses and other stuff which exist on Antarctica. It's not this icy world that they're telling us. These are like the Atacama Desert. This is Antarctica, guys. Grey, just like what I just showed you. It is even a grey, even looks grey, but you can see grassy bits as well. And glaciers end, and then just expanses of, it could have even, volcanic ash looks that color. Even in a volcanistic, where there's volcanoes apparently erupting in Antarctica, but look at these valleys. It's that same grayish hue. Wouldn't you agree that I just showed you? They could film all of it in this valley here. And then mountains, Sydney Crewbacks. You could have the screens along here. That makes perfect sense to me. Out of the way of anyone ever seeing that they're faking it. When anyone goes down there, apart from visitors and going to see or exchange maybe information with whatever is out there, which I think there is. I think there's stuff under the ice. I think outwardly of Antarctica, I think are other worlds, and I think that's who our visitors are. I think they come extraterrestrials. I think come from other worlds. These boulders, look, left by apparently glaciation, maybe, but again, green hills, Antarctica, guys, green valleys. And if they're all in T-shirts on that final experiment, saying how chocolatey and warm it is, although it says on Google that the average temperature in December in Antarctica is minus 27, they were cushy and warm at around minus, I don't know, 10 max. It was just, we get that in Britain. In fact, it was warmer than Britain when the final experiment was happening. Final experiment, who fucking says? That pasta. I don't think so. I should quote. Whatever. So yeah, dry deserts, ends of glaciers, just dry, huge expanses of greening land. This is Antarctica. It's not the icy wilderness you think, is it? It's actually green and looks a bit like Wales over here, actually. A lot like Wales. And you could definitely film what the fuck you want there, because let's be honest, except for space penguins, who's going to see you? And what have these been shaped by? The winds? Wow. Entropy over time, eh? So, yeah. Antarctica is full of deserts. So, pose the question, just throwing it out there. Why didn't the final experiment go to one of these dry places to go witness their 24-hour sun instead of freezing everyone's kahunas off on Union Glacier? I wonder why that was. Look at this. Not a fucking bead of snow. But then, they wanted to make it look as Antarctic-y as they possibly can, but none of us have been there, and I doubt it's like anything like they're saying. Not after I watched that. Alarm bells were ringing. This is copper oxide running out of a fissure. They call it Blood Falls in Antarctica, into lakes, man. Hot volcanic lakes. All of these areas here near McMurdoch Sound, going up to the Ross Ice Shelf, all of these areas are without ice and have been apparently for quite some time. Some of these valleys, Taylor Valley here near McMurdo, mountains and towards the Ross Sea, the three McMurdo dry valleys are Taylor Valley and Wright Valley and Victoria Valley with a large lake. Ooh. I bet there's all like hotels and stuff around there, all like really posh for the elites and stuff, where they just laughing their heads off, drinking cocktails. And other valleys as well. All of these, look. Mears, Garwood, Wall, Virginia. All these beautiful valleys, which actually are very misleading to what they tell us about Antarctica. Life in a place it shouldn't exist. So they're even saying microbial life. They were saying it was too cold, but now they're saying, oh no, it's not. So yeah, what a load of shit this was. Jeez. And like these people got any say in anything anyway. In fact, I just can't even, I don't even recognize them. So that doesn't even matter to me. Same as this other thing that's happening with Shiva, Dr. Shiva, and this MIT business. I personally would have told him to fuck off, but that's just me. But other flat earthers said they're going to play along with it. I'm not actually in support of that. Not unless I have a look in and find out what's going on. Because if that's indicative of the entire flat Earth movement, then maybe you should ask the entire flat Earth movement instead of just because I'm not actually with that. Like I said, I would have told him to fuck off, the condescending guy, you know. And they're going to tie it all up in calculus and everything that none of us understand. Great, brilliant. So that sounds like a lot of fun. Let me know what you think in chat. So, the good old days. Long gone and distant memory. So Nazis and Antarctica. So NASA, as you know, part of later Operation Paperclip, and Werner von Braun, Sichel, and the good Nazi, apparently never killed anyone or had anyone killed in Peenemond, building his V2 bunkers and rocket launch sites. But apparently, this is highly interesting. Werner von Braun went to Antarctica in 1966-67. He traveled to Antarctica to study conditions that might help with a planned moon landing. Like on Antarctica, guys. They're telling you right there. So there is evidence out there that he did actually go to Antarctica. It says here there's a newspaper article from New York Times saying that it is very credible proof that the mission did occur, and that apparently Werner von Braun went in search of meteorites on the moon, which is like, I don't know. That seems really difficult to find any meteors, but I'm guessing they do. But highly interesting that Werner von Braun, bear with me, one of like the founder of NASA space travel, all of this business with NASA, Operation Paperclip, all tied in with UFOs. And he actually stated, Werner von Braun did, that there would be a fake alien operation that would take place. He said that there would be a fake alien invasion because he was an insider and he knew stuff. I think it is the case that the Nazis did go to Antarctica, New Swabia, and set up some sort of U-boat bases and underground stuff. I really do. I've been to an underground U-boat bunker in a place called Saint-Nazaire in France, and it blew my head off how massive it was. They had all like Nazi memorabilia on the walls and stuff. I can't tell you how cool it was, but it went on forever. And it occurred to me that they could have done that in Antarctica. They had an early expedition, in the early 30s, and it just right before World War II, and then after World War II. Okay, Aberberg goes there with 10,000 men, and the narrative is he's had some battle in Antarctica in Operation High Jump over what? With encounters with UFOs that he stated were coming from inside the Earth, inside of Antarctica. They said that they had a big battle. There's a whole load of narratives, and some US sailors as well have come out and said all of this really happened. Watch stacks of videos that would say that in 1947, just after World War II, they got all of this stuff left. The first thing they can do is go off down to Antarctica, to look for Nazis, to look for Adolf Hitler, who's buggered off to Antarctica and not Paraguay or South America, which is a hop, skip, and a jump. So here, 1930 to 31, they had expeditions into apparently Antarctica. And just right before Well, actually, in the start of World War II, they were in Antarctica. I find that really interesting that in 1938-39, the year World War II started, that the Nazis have a presence in Antarctica, in Ushuaia, which is a German place, with U-boat stations and all that stuff that I think is definitely going on. And there's enough narratives out there would suggest that they are definitely telling us that it's going on. So encounters with UFOs have been going on and on. I'm going to talk about UFOs a little bit on my next post. I've been off for a week from a strike, but I'm going to be back on the weekend, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some aspects of this. Now, in 1942, there was reports of UFOs over LA, and there's a movie about it, the Battle of LA. They had the ACACs. They didn't know if it was the Japanese, but these things were spotted and they were shot at, and there was a very famous Battle of LA. But there's been other instances, as you know, with UFOs during this period. But further back in time, the narratives for American city fires being started by UFOs are quite numerous. This is Pittsburgh in the 1860s, torched by, they reported, some sort of floating vehicle. They don't say a flying saucer, they say a floating vehicle, which gets me to thinking about balloons and all of the nonsense that's going on lately. I don't think that they're from anywhere, up there. There could be some sort of space beyond the water that is above our head. I don't know. But I don't think that they are actually coming to probe our bottoms or anything like that. It could be the case that there are no grey aliens or insectoids or reptilians at all. In fact, it's all humans, just different types of humans in different ponds. So how far did they get? Well, the Foo Fighters are reported constantly in World War II. There's a band named after them. God forbid them. Forgive them. And the Glocken as well, the time traveling device, and also these UFOs, which apparently they had Vimana technology, used real and apparently mastered UFO technologies. Did they? Well, there's a lot of evidence, or at least the narrative is that they did get somewhere with UFO technologies and maglev technologies. I don't know if that's AI or not, but it's very interesting. It reminds me of that film, Cowboys versus Aliens. You ever seen that film? Might be a bit of truth going on with that. So, yeah, the reports of the Chicago fire, surprisingly, which is mind-blowing, because what I've realized that you might find, I was going to say disturbing, but it is that including Boston, Seattle, Vancouver, Baltimore, Toronto, Chicago, and Boston fires, you don't actually see any evidence of fires. You see smoldering. I've seen some smoldering, but with the main American city fires, North American fires, I don't see any fire. Just smoldering, the smoke, the smoldering. You never actually see these places on fire, except for San Francisco, which is a long time later, which is a slightly different narrative. No, rather than space aliens, could it be the fact that there are a lot of Zeppelins up in the air? Probably why they're vanilla skying and wiping out the backgrounds and backdrops in a lot of the old pictures to hide all of the Zeppelins that are zipping around, and dirigibles and balloons, which I think is actually the case. But I think there's more going on with the sky, with the vanilla skying. So yeah, in World War I, they were using high energy beams, same as what these UFOs apparently use to cause fires, from Zeppelins, which are very large facets, electromagnetic technologies, starting fires and eradicating cities from above, and then blaming space aliens. Dun, 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 dun. Bullshit. Bum, 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 bum. Close Encounters of the Third Kind was an epic film. There was a lot going on with the Devil's Tower as well, and where it's situated, its coordinate, and people think it's a giant tree. But there's a lot of weirdness going on around that tower anyway, which is where the aliens came with their window smashed. But isn't it curious how the Mount Saint Michel's and Mount St. Michael, Cornwall, and France both look like they could have landed there? Floating cities, another thing. So here it is. The Great Fire of Chicago was reported to have been started by a flying saucer, or what they state was, rather than Auntie Betty kicking over her piss pot or whatever caused it. Space aliens have been accused in the past. Now, I find it fascinating. I'm going to talk a little bit about War of the Worlds and H.G. Wells in my next post as well, because there's something else going on with that. Now, these images I can't obviously verify. They come from Google, and they don't show you where these high energy beams are coming from. Could be anything from a drone to a balloon, anything really. But they've been cited as starting a lot of these anomalous fires that are ripping through the world right now. So let me know what you think. This is Flat Earth British, my channel. This is a quick video for you today to get back. I think there is a high possibility that they filmed and recorded the moon landings, not actually on the moon itself, because that would be impossible, but definitely rather than in American desert when somebody might see them, even in Nevada, something that looks a little bit more authentic and moony, where Werner von Braun actually said that they were going to compare it to the moon. What are the chances? So make sure to come back soon on Flatter Day, which is my show very soon, if not today. And thank you very much. Love you. See you soon. This has been Flat Earth British. Matt and Liga.